with the editor and producer of Days in Mariupol, Michelle Meisner. This is probably coming. They were writing imminently. Well, I mean, the first thing to ask is, he's a war reporter. He's making a movie about things that he's reporting on for the AP. But when he wants to make it into a movie, when do you come in and how does that process work?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you so much for being here tonight. And it has been a very heartening experience, I have to say, to watch people come to theaters to watch this film. Even though it's available on YouTube right now, all Frontline PBSs are available on YouTube, and so they're highly accessible. But also to have people come to cinemas and see it together in community has meant a lot over this year that we've been able to share the film. So thank you for being here and bearing witness to the story. And I say that on behalf of MSTYSLAV, who'll be here shortly and will feel the same. And it always means a lot to him to see people here. So thank you. As for how Frontline became involved, I'm a editor and producer on staff and have the privilege of working with filmmakers to make documentaries that are created in many different ways, but typically you have a concept and you go out and start filming for the documentary and then you're creating it from there. This was one where MSTYSLAV, as an Associated Press journalist, was doing what he has done for the past 10 years as a conflict reporter. He was shooting, cutting short dispatches, remarkable dispatches, and filing. And as you see in the film, he's working really hard to try to get out everything that he was filming so that we could all see it in the rest of the world on the wire. So AP distributes all of its pieces and they show up in the news, so you're seeing it on Good Morning America or you're seeing it on CNN. And when he left the city, so day 20, as you saw, he's leaving the city and he has this hard drive of footage that has nearly between 35 and 40 hours of footage that he knows could tell the larger story, a more comprehensive story of what happened on the ground. And so that was when I began working with him and Rainey Aronson, who's the executive producer and leads Frontline. We got connected with him, so as soon as day 22, we were having conversations with him on Zoom about the footage he was shipping to us. And as it made its way to me, he is talking about his ideas for how it could be a film. So these sort of concepts I filmed, there was Russian news that totally distorted what we had filmed of the bombing of the maternity hospital. So I'm thinking about how can we show that footage and then also show it alongside what we had actually filmed. And so these ideas were starting to surface, and I would actually, he continued to work as a correspondent in that time, so he would go out and film during the day in places like Bucha and Kharkiv, his hometown, and film the ongoing shelling and what was happening there during the day. And then in the evenings, we would meet on Zoom and talk about the film.
Oh, wow.
And so it was an intense moment in time for so many reasons. It was an urgent story to tell. There were a team of people who were committed to making that happen, but chiefly among them, MSTYSLAV was so determined to get this story told quickly, but also, in a narrative way that would make it accessible to audiences.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the great gifts of the movie, outside of just the bearing witness to the war, is that he's telling you how journalism works, because this is a war that is a misinformation war too. So it's important for him to show how he does what he does and why he does it, and then so that you see, you're seeing it, and then it's there on CNN, and he's talking about what it takes to do all that. And you guys talked about that, obviously.
Yeah, it ended up being a good way to establish the language in the film rather than using news archive as like montages that are situated to just provide context about this issue or backstory, it actually had this opportunity to use it as a device in the film that demonstrated how the work that they were filming, that you are witnessing them film and sort of are alongside him as he's gathering that, was being presented in the news. And so by the time that the disinformation scene appears, that convention has already been set up, and that was a natural way to use it. So speaking of
And then we'd like to welcome the filmmaker himself, Mstislav Chernov. And the executive producer of Frontline, Wayne Aronson. Really, we've been talking about some of the processes, but I do want to ask you, Mstislav, because I think people want to know, do you have any updates on some of the people? I mean, this is 2 years now, we're coming up on you filming them. Do you have any updates?
Yeah, this is a very interesting process. In these 2 years, either we found most of the people, or they found us by watching the film or by seeing our other work, because we when we finished filming, when we finished the film, it doesn't mean that the story of Mariupol was over for us. We went on and made investigations about the city and about what happened to it after it was occupied, what happened to kids, what happened to buildings, to infrastructure, drama theater, and we followed up with the families who lost their children. We followed up with medics. So here's an example of just a miracle. We couldn't find a boy we didn't know what happened to the boy who we see trapped under the rubble of the fire department, and we were sure he died, but a few days ago I got the message that he's alive. Someone sent me over Instagram, his relative sent me a message over Instagram that they survived, and we see his mom. So she made it out with him, and they are now in Chicago, and he's going through treatment. So it was amazing, because I was sure he died and we couldn't find him. Months ago, we found a boy who was looking for his mom near the maternity hospital bombing. He comes out and he says, "Where's my mom? Where's my mom?" His mom was injured, and his dad was injured, and for weeks they didn't know where they are, and he stayed with his sister who gave birth to a child after the bombing. So they were hiding in basements, and then they couldn't leave the city for quite a long time because Russians wouldn't let them out without birth certificate, and the mom didn't want to make a Russian birth certificate. So they eventually made it out, and they met them in Europe. That was a very touching moment, and the whole family reunited in Europe, and it was great. And they saw the film, they came to screening, and I can see how these people have difficulties of expressing to everyone else around them what happened to them. They just can't speak, or they cannot express how much tragedy they went through. And that's why this film is so important for them, because now they have an instrument, now they have something to show and to explain what they went through. Vladimir was injured heavily in Pokrovsk a couple of months ago. Russian rocket hit a building where he was trying to get civilians from under the rubble, and the second rocket hit the same place, and he got injured heavily. His lungs were pierced by shrapnel, and he is going through recovery. So yeah, many stories, many stories.
So that's them, so the next question obviously would be like, it's been 2 years since you filmed it, a year since you debuted this film. I mean, what are you going through right now as you keep talking about this movie and this war keeps going on?
You got the mic probably has a problem. Is there a way to fix it?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah, this is better. I hope you heard the whole previous answer. Okay. What's interesting is that when we finally finished making a film, it was an urgent story of Mariupol, about its people. But over these 2 years, it became a story of all other cities in Ukraine that got destroyed by Russian bombs. Then there was Bakhmut, it was Marinka, now there is Avdiivka, that are going through the same. Russia is using the same tactics to occupy them, just completely destroy and just take over the ruins. So the film now represents much more than just Mariupol, than just citizens of Mariupol. And furthermore, as more tragedies are unfolding right now around the world, I think it represents the devastating impact. It became a symbol of the devastating impact of war on the civilian population in general, not just in Ukraine. So, and that's what we were aiming for. We didn't want to, we wanted to speak about more universal themes of war and its impact. And of course, as the tension to Ukraine is fading, as Ukraine somehow became a political topic and it's considered a somehow political issue instead of being a humanitarian catastrophe. I hope this film just puts a perspective back on just the focus on the impact of the civilian population, and that they actually just need help. And it's not about the political arguments, and we can't really use them. A lot of people now are using Ukraine like a bargaining chip in their politics, and it shouldn't be the case because we talk about the lives of people.
Well, since we have a part out, we want to get to a few questions at least. So we have a question for